just kind of giving us an idea about the historical phases of school socialization. School system as we know it now in Bermuda and typically in the Caribbean evolved out of this whole emancipation debate. If I was teaching my history of colonization class, this would be a whole week of reading, so I'm just trying to bust through this quickly so I can have time for my other esteemed panelists. The main issue at stake was this. Within the emancipation debate, there was a question as to whether it would be the gradual emancipation of the slaves, or the enslaved Africans rather, or it would be immediate emancipation. The central question was, once we release the shackles, how do we make these freed Africans labor and behave? How do we make these individuals labor and behave once we have removed the coercive constraints of slavery? You see, once you have slavery, you have a whip, okay? We can beat you into doing what you want. We can beat you into behaving. You know, you have other coercive mechanisms. You might have somebody's children, husband or wife, or so on and so forth, and threaten to sell them into slavery. So I'm gonna make you behave. I'm gonna make you labor for me, because I have these mechanisms, these levers of coercion above your body or those of your family. However, once we remove that here, how do we cause people to labor and to act in a ways which is amenable to white society? That was kind of instituted by those particular amelioration of slavery acts in England, and then Bermuda's own legislature passed its own in 1827. These laws mandated religious education of blacks, both enslaved and free. Our school systems, as we know it right now, evolved out of that. Basically, at one point or another, these were either Anglican-run institutions, Methodist-run institutions, and they evolved out of that. Those of you who are much older, you know, and I know as well, it's like some of these schools, even in Bermuda, are kind of built out of old church sites and so forth. Pushing from the 19th century foundations into the 20th century, now you have the 1911 Imperial Education Conference in London. Once again, in that time period between emancipation in 1834 in the British West Indies and now the early 1900s, Britain is expanding its empire. You have the Ashanti Wars in the 1890s where they go into Africa, conquer the Akan people, steal the golden stool and other artifacts from the Akan people. And many other African nations are doing this. Kenya, other spaces. They're expanding an empire. Now that they've conquered territory, they're now trying to figure out, now, we have this territory. It's just like the war the other day. People do not, imperialists, whether they be British, whether they be American or whoever, they don't conquer land just to conquer it. So, they went to Iraq for oil, right? Okay, I didn't learn that at the University of Chicago. You know, that's some simple stuff. They went to Iraq for oil. They go to places for resources, and such was the case in the early 20th century and late 19th century. They went to Africa, Asia, all these different locations for specific reasons. Now that they have conquered the land through military conquest, how do we make the subjects labor and behave? Laboring and behaving for the white society is very important. Once again, imperial education. They set up a system of education whereby there were certain goals in it. One was British nationalism. They said, we want individuals to be able to see the world as a theater of British activity. They want to imagine themselves as imperial subjects. I'm quoting this. I was reading this stuff like, wow, these people tripped out. This ain't no Illuminati, Mason. No. People have a full-time job figuring out how to oppress us. That's a full-time job. That's not an Illuminati, that's not secret society. That stuff exists. However, it's a full-time job of certain individuals in this world to figure out how to oppress folks. You see, marketing, why can some of us sing certain radio jingles? you know, Coke is socialization. You heard that run on you so much times, now we just chirp right along with it. You know, and that's not a big hoodwink or something. So these are some of the ideas that they had put in focus. British nationalism, the curriculum was to teach that. Citizen training and imperial interest, to see one as a stakeholder in the British Empire. So that all these people from disparate places, whether Africa, Asia, the Caribbean, would now see themselves as no longer as Africans, no longer as Indians or Asians, but they are trying to inculcate individuals with this idea to say that I am a member of the British Empire. You know, don't be, I mean, some of us who are older know we have relatives to this day more British than the Queen. Speak the Queen's English like you know who.